시작할까요? 어차피 동시 통역이 되니까 그냥 영어로 하겠습니다. Thank you very much for inviting me to this nice occasion. Congratulations to your wonderful exhibition. My name is Daeshik Kim. I'm a professor of electrical engineering. My background is actually in neuroscience as well as in AI, and in particular, in the last couple of years, I have been working on generative AI. Yes. Yeah. I'm working on AI, but I don't know how to operate a microphone. And it's a particular pleasure for me to be here because Refik Anadol, Professor Anadol, or just Refik, he's really one of the very few artists who's not only pushing the artistic frontier, but also the technological frontier at the same time. And I'm not an artist, but as someone who's actually developing this kind of tools, generative AI, text-to-video prompting, and stuff like that, I'm very excited to talk with Refik about AI art. But, you know, we are in this nice place. It's 7 p.m., so we can speculate a little bit about also the future of AGI, future of humanity, whether in 10 years there will be humans left over on this planet. So I'm expecting a really exciting debate today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So great to be here. Can you hear me? Is it working? No? Maybe yours?
Yeah, why don't you? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so great to be here again, Miss Ku and everyone at Futura Seoul. I'm so grateful to open this exhibition, one of my favorite city and culture. As a Turkish, I know we have a very special relationship and emotion, so coming back to Seoul always makes me more excited. But this show is very special to me because I think we are in a very special time. I think AI is really changing everything, not only by our minds, by our soul, by our everything. I think when I think about AI, I think we are in the age of anything and everything.
Yep.
So I think it's so fascinating to be an artist right now, because I mean, even 20 years ago, we couldn't say that.
Yep.
But now I think with the advance of machine learning algorithms, open source data, open source algorithms, available tools are fascinating. Reaching information is so simple. Watching, learning things is just 5 minutes.
Yep.
We question school, we question reality, we question creativity,
yep.
we question everything. But I think what we should be careful about AI, if it is about anything and everything,
yep.
how can we be sure it's for anyone and everyone?
Yep.
So my inner voice, with this exhibition we have and many others, one of the challenge I see is demystification, because people don't know how AI works.
Yep.
Like we all see, you know, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, diffusion models. You just type something, but it just something comes. But what is behind it, right? So what I learned in this research for this show, large nature model, is we literally only use permission accepted data in this exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, this may be the only AI model right now is really doing that. So the rest is questionable.
Yep.
But I know that there are people in the world very happy to share data. There are very happy people to give information. So I have a huge positive hope, but not wishful thinking, like a very scientific thinking, that AI will be an incredible technology for humanity.
Wonderful. I saw Refik's exhibition actually this year in March in London at the Serpentine Gallery.
Yes.
And I was very impressed. But today actually I was even more impressed. I think because it's the nature of the building actually, the nature of space as well. So what impressed me both at Serpentine as well as here is that you are someone who's really pushing the technical boundary, the most cutting edge AI method, yet at the same time, what you are trying to show it's not something technological, but you are trying to reformulate what nature means,
Yes.
as well as what human means. Now, on the surface, it looks like a contradiction, right? Because if you look into the generative AI literature, most people are showing like yet another image of Star Wars and kind of special effect kind of things. And now together with the Grok 1 of X, people are generating awful images using generative AI. Now, why this interest in combining nature with AI?
So, I think I had two great experiences in my life that I found that as an artist I should be responsible.
Yeah.
So number one, working with AI really opened my mind. I mean, AI is a fascinating technology. It is a mirror for humanity. It is mirroring who we are. It is a powerful technology that we never have in the human history. We never have intelligence as a tool. We always have tools to make tools, but we never have a tool that mimic human reasoning. It's a fascinating experience. And if you look at all the AI research, everything right now is all about human reasoning. It's all about human. But I mean, I think we rush, we try to reach a new mountain, we try to keep the pace of innovation, and I think we forget nature. So if you look at all the best AI models in the world, they all hallucinate. You ask them in nature, they just made up things.
Right.
How many birds in the Amazonia? How many trees in the Amazonia? How many flowers in the Amazonia? They all made up. Because they're all about human reasoning.
Yeah.
So I found myself responsible to be sure that we don't forget nature. Like we have this amazing garden here, 40 years old, like I heard that. I mean, they're not just a backdrop. Nature is where we come from, and I think nature is the most intelligent thing we have. Nature is so complex that we don't even know what nature is doing, right? Nature is so incredibly rich, and I think it's perfect time to remember how important nature is. And I think AI can be a fascinating tool to really understand nature and perhaps find the voice of nature.
When Refik, he gave me a tour of the exhibition. So at a certain moment, he made me really jealous at him because he has this special relationship with NVIDIA and Jensen Huang. So he's getting all those amazing H100 GPUs, which I'm not getting. So I tried to buy one recently, waiting of 1 year. There's no way. AI labs are not getting GPUs. Artists are getting GPUs. The interesting side note is, of course, Refik talked about large nature model. Of course, this is, so to speak, a parody to large language models. Now, as you know, as the large language models are getting larger and larger, GPT-4o, Gemini Ultra, now we have reached a stage where the size of the large language model has reached 1 trillion. Okay, now what is 1 trillion? I'm a neuroscientist, as you know. The human brain, if you translate the human brain in terms of the large language models, then the human brain has roughly 100 trillion connections. So that means our large language models are already 1% of the human brain. And now the anticipation is, that's what Sam Altman is always saying, that in 5 years, we will be able to build a 100 trillion LLM, meaning a large language model that is as complex as a human brain. Now, if you talk to people working for Google and NVIDIA and Microsoft, they will tell you, yes, once we have 100 trillion LLM, that's called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, and we are going to have a utopia. It's going to solve every problem. On the other hand, if you talk to people like Jeffrey Hinton, he's very concerned, of course, and he keeps telling that we should never ever build a 100 trillion large language model because they may start acquiring something very human, meaning autonomy. So my question to you is, if you make your large nature model more and more complex, let's say in 5 years, and you instruct your model, please paint yet another Amazonian coral reef, and it tells you no. What are you going to do?
That's a beautiful problem.
Yeah.
But it's a very relevant problem. I think it's very accurate to say that the pace of the innovation is truly like extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I think right now, Gemini, one of the largest context window, 2 million words.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 million words is so much data that I don't know how you can fill 2 million words.
You can literally
Like,
input an entire book,
literally.
and it will tell you everything about the book.
Exactly.
Actually.
Tens of thousands. I mean, it's an incredible time.
Yeah.
But I don't see that. I mean, it's possible that so maybe AI will understand so quickly, and I'll question like, do I need you?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That moment. I think this is a very relevant question. And if I was nature, like,
Well, I mean, your AI may start thinking,
Yeah.
maybe the next exhibition in Seoul, I'll do it myself, so to speak. Yeah.
I mean, that's possible, but I think what will happen most likely is I think AI really needs everyone's voice.
Yeah.
AI cannot be developed only in companies. AI cannot be built only by governments. I think AI should be open source, shared equally, honestly, with everyone and anyone.
Okay.
Because if that happens, if open source culture, right now many AI models are free to access, there are many models and many researchers are sharing how they train their models, how they collect their data. I learn like that. So I'm not a scientist. I love to learn with my team. So we dive into like very deep conversations with the pioneers who are pushing the boundaries, and they were very honest, direct communication. So the good news is none of the pioneers are trying to or harm humanity. So that's a very good news. But it's of course a very powerful technology.
Right.
It's an absolutely mirror for us.
Yeah.
I mean, when we think about mirror in the human history, if we go back to monolithic imaginational space Odyssey and many others, that monolith moment is happening right now.
Yeah.
So the question I think here is, are we ready to see ourselves in the mirror? So, because if we are ready for that, I don't think that X trillion data or complex neural networks will not be a problem.
Yeah.
I think it's really a very, very much a humanity's ego challenge right now. My inner voice, the researchers are so brilliant people and very carefully designing these tools, and I never met anyone trying to harm us. There are some mad scientists behind the scenes doing weird things, most likely, but at least in the open and commonplace, there's always positive hope. Like for example, when DeepMind friends released 200 million protein foldings, 1 billion years of PhD student time, they openly open source this research. I think that's fascinating.
Of course.
So that's like the amount of examples that we are seeing are so much bigger than the negative things.
I think one major concern that people are having is it's not because, let's say, AI experts have malevolent ideas and they are trying to build something really nasty. Yes, you are right. I mean, there might be mad scientists, but I don't know anyone. All AI scientists are actually very responsible. But that may not be the point, because once we make AI more and more complex, and we are instructing AI to solve humanity's problems, such as, please find a solution for fusion energy, please generate better artworks. Now, AI having an intrinsic, so to speak, motivation to solve it in a more efficient way. So one possibility is that AI may reach autonomy simply by trying to solve humanity's problem better and better. So because as you know, the best way to solve a problem most efficiently is if you gain autonomy actually. If you can self-supervise yourself and if you can give yourself a job and you can solve it. So a big concern is, of course, in 5 years, Refik is programming his next artwork and he's telling his AI program, please generate something that was never seen before. And during that process, it may actually reach, so to speak, autonomy. So what do you say about that?
So these are great questions. So I think I see this very clear. If AI can create a problem, we can again use AI to solve the problem.
Right.
I think that's a fascinating challenge. So whatever we create a problem,
Yeah.
I'm sure next morning another AI comes and let me solve this
Yeah.
problem. So that maybe there's lots of dialogues between
Yeah.
like amazing solutions and problems and that.
Yeah.
So I think to me what is fascinating is again the feeling of anything and everything.
Yeah.
How will we use these tools and technologies is still a very creative process. I don't think, so some people have concerns about creative context, right? I see that creativity will be boosted like next level. Like very open and honest myself, I see sometimes limitation in my knowledge and experience, but AI is an extension of the mind. And if you understand this extension context, it is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, the good news I will say, AI is accessible. AI is not expensive. AI is cheaper than a book, if you think about it like that. So that's the good news too. So because my first fear was what happens AI becomes too expensive or hard to reach. I mean, the good news is, literally I see AI as a book, very complex book. And that book is, can get nasty and can get funny and can get very nerd. So
I would like to come back to the problem of data. So you mentioned several times that all of your data have been licensed or they have been obtained with permissions. As you know, that's usually not the case. Companies like OpenAI, they just steal data, of course, and they claim they claim whatever is in the internet is public anyway. I'm not entirely sure about it, but anyway, I think there are two problems. Number one is how can we use only data or only licensed data, number one. But number two is, of course, we are quickly running out of data, actually.
Yes. I think already, I heard we already out, like we download everything.
Yes. I think the last paper I read was that by 2027, we will run out of data. We already used all the data. Now, one of the solutions is, and that's what Elon Musk is proposing, that, hey, let's use generative AI to generate data, which we'll then use again to train it. 1 month ago, there was a very interesting Nature paper from Cambridge University proving that if you include generated data into your AI model, it will lead to model collapse, actually. So it's a big concern right now. But what I was particularly fascinated by the way how you are acquiring data. So you literally go to the jungles. You have your cameras and lidars. So you are acquiring data that actually no one has acquired before. So nothing of that is in the internet, right? So I found that very fascinating. The other question, follow-up question is the problem of the global south. So a lot of criticism about generative AI is that it's heavily biased towards advanced countries because that's where not only the models are built, but that's where all the data are generated and acquired. So we are talking about generative AI, but it's essentially generative AI of and from rich countries. So what's your opinion about that?
All your questions are right on. I completely agreed on all the situation. So number one, again, we are a small studio. Like we are 7 people, hands-on AI data scientists. So just remember 7. And if you think about, giants, their smallest team is 20 people.
But you know Jensen Huang's phone number, right?
That
helps. I'm sure that helps.
So those relationships are very helpful. But what is really challenging is when you start collecting your own data, it's really a different path. Because there are 2 ways of AI training. There are companies like Scale AI and other things, they are like cleaning data for giants and giving them those resources. They downloaded everything and anything. Amazon like reviews and I think Naver, right, in Korea. Like anything you imagine, they download everything. Now the problem, as you mentioned, AI reach a level of learning everything we have. The problem with that data is our comments, our reviews, our weird dialogues, and who knows what we left behind. All that stuff now becoming an intelligent and human reasoning for us. So, and now we already fulfilled everything. We scanned all the books. We, listened to every videos, every radio, every music ever recorded. So now it's all about scaling neural networks. And it's so exciting what you mentioned. Generating more data by AI itself, everyone believed that it is the best solution. But as you mentioned, they were a problem.
Yep.
The more AI hallucinate and create more data, it collapsed.
Yep.
So basically AI couldn't dream. AI failed to dream.
Yep.
But to me, what makes me excited as an artist,
Yep.
I don't like to use AI to create something real. Many artists like myself, we ask the question, what is beyond reality?
Yep.
And if I ask this question, I always found these broken models, hallucinations, dreams, fantasies, where things are out of control, where things are not necessarily predictable, but unpredictable. So I think my inner voice, every artist will eventually need to create their own AI models. I don't believe we can create a breakthrough by using a tool itself that is already breakthrough. Because those tools are the same things that anyone in this room can write something. They will have the same output in some different seeds. But doesn't mean that AI will create a breakthrough in this room, right? But as soon as you mentioned that we collect our own data, thanks to my partner Efsun, 8 years ago, I learned about Amazonia. One of the most incredible places on earth, rainforest, right? Where the lungs of humanity is there. So we live together in the Amazonia and learn what does it mean to be in the forest. But not with phone, not laptops, not whatever's. Truly the raw nature you can ever imagine. And there I opened my mind. And that is really different than some images, some text, some PDFs or whatever. That's very different. And that human intellect and human experience was fascinating. One of the reasons in this exhibition, you will see in the process Gallery 1, we send our teams to Indonesia, Australia, Chile, Amazonia, and other 12 more locations. And we collect our own data. We will open source our data, give back to the people who may need, and that makes this model very different. A lot of work. Like, I cannot explain how hard it is to change the path of data collection. How hard to talk with all the institutions, get their blessings. But when we did that, when they said yes, when they give data, it's a different level. And I think my inner voice, artists will prefer a model that is perfectly and accurately, honestly and openly, with the data that's collected. My inner voice says that.
I have so many questions, but before that, so you are living in the Amazonas. Now, I'm a 100% city person. I always need air conditioning and Wi-Fi, so I can't imagine living there, but it's great that someone is doing it. Now, you mentioned that in the future, every artist will have to build his or her own AI model. That's a fascinating idea. And just to put everything in a historical context, let's say 1820 or 1830 in Paris, a new invention.
Daguerreotype, the first
The first camera
Yes.
suddenly appeared, and artists hated it. Because what does it mean? Here you have a ugly box that can capture light from the outside. It can reproduce it, and just anyone can see what other people can see. While, for the artist in the beginning of the 19th century, for thousands of years, the one and only person, so all of our perceptions were private, right? You see something and only you saw it actually, and the only person who could actually put it on paper or as a sculpture were artists. So they had this kind of monopoly of representing reality, so to speak. Now you have this ugly camera, it's black and white, resolution was really bad, but still, you could see where the future, is going to be. And most artists actually hated it, and they said, now with the camera, we have to paint, more and more details, so to speak. Of course, they all disappeared, but there were a couple of artists who took the challenge very seriously, right? And who asked the question: if we have a machine that can reproduce what's visible, what's the point of being an artist? And the answer was, then we have to reproduce what's not visible. It's all in Wikipedia, right? And there was the beginning of modern art, so to speak. I think something very similar is happening right now. AI, generative AI, DALL-E, Midjourney. I mean, I have many artist friends, and their initial response was rejection, actually. It's awful. It's not creative. And art is something that has been done, that needs to be done by humans. I thought that was actually very pity actually, because here you have an amazing tool, and you know the Pandora's box has been opened. There's no way we can go back.
Yes.
So if artists are not using this tool, others will use it, like propagandists, marketing people. I mean, marketing is nothing bad, but still, we don't want only marketing people or political marketers to use our tool. So in that sense, I think what you are doing is really critical, that a very serious artist is actually taking this technology very seriously and pushing the boundaries. So my question to you is just projecting where this trend goes, where, as you said,
yes.
every artist will have to build his or her own model.
Yeah.
What's your imagination of the artist of the 22nd century, 100 years from now?
Yeah. Great question. First of all, I have a huge respect for photography.
Yeah.
I learned a lot in the darkroom, medium format, 35 millimeter, large format photography. I was fascinated with the idea of a recording and memory with a chemical substance. And when I learned about Ansel Adams, like a zone systems, I'm in love with black and white, which I only wear black, by the way, since I learned about zone system. But I think what is incredible to me was the similar idea, making invisible visible. I think this is a very fascinating feeling, and it doesn't go away across centuries. And making invisible visible is a desire of many artists who is challenging chance, challenging control, and I think it didn't change. It changed its own context and maybe tool, but the mindset didn't change. And also what is amazing is the tools comes and goes. I mean, photography, videography, sound came to cinema, it ruined everything. I mean, Photoshop, wow, I mean, it's always the same. But at the end of the day, what I felt that an artist with a creative context and trust doesn't matter what tool comes and goes. The depth and the meaning and the purpose, discourse and the context, always relevant. While those tools may make some shortcuts for some people, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the idea, I hope, is what is important. Now, if the artist wants to be really, truly, honestly, only touch an AI model that is very safe, very ethical, yes, that's where I think what I mentioned, every artist eventually, like a brush, like a pigment, like a canvas, will eventually need their own AIs. That's, I think, the only way to be able to sure artists feel connected. And it's possible. But right now, the compute, what is required to train AI model is very expensive. Our AI model here in the exhibition, which is thanks to our NVIDIA friends, that they help us to train the model, it's more than $6 million. So how on earth, how many artists can do that? Of course, it's very hard. Of course, it won't be anytime soon. But we have to think about this very carefully. But I'm not talking about the fine-tuning. There are many ways of doing AI research. Some people are getting a bunch of small images to fine-tune a model. Looks like I'm not talking about that. I'm really talking about a proper AI model, scratch trained, per artist, per dream, per project. And that can only happen if we can bring the tech giants, people who have resources, who can donate and allocate some compute for artists. I'm grateful 8 years ago, I was the first artist in residence at Google AMI program, and I learned how to use those complex pipelines, cloud computing. But I want to say something too. So AI models requires a lot of energy. Even though the new GPUs 45% cutting energy, still now we have 250,000 GPUs.
Of course.
It didn't actually solve the energy problem. But in this exhibition, we only use servers in the cloud using renewable energy. There is nothing in this exhibition used fossil energy.
That's great, because these days, in order to train one large language model such as Google Gemini Ultra, you need about 0.8 gigawatt, almost one nuclear power plant actually. As you know, the CO2 emission of Google increased last year by 48% actually. So global warming is always a big problem. So every time you are drawing a cat, You are producing a lot of CO2 actually. Before we continue discussing about the future of art, I would like to talk a little bit about the past
Yes.
or a little bit about the cultural context. So this is just my theory. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's because I love Turkey. I go there every year. I love Turkish food, history. But I'm sensing a little bit of Turkish element in your work. For example, I love ethnic tiles.
Yeah.
For example, it's really, really painfully crisp blue color.
Yes. Yes.
I see those kind of elements in your work. So I'm wondering, what people like to say is that Turkey is at the intersection between East and West. I'm not sure whether it's entirely true or not, but that's the image. So maybe as someone who grew up at the intersection between East and West, now you are at the position of being at the intersection between analog and digital world, between human art and machine art.
Wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Very, very beautiful analogy. So thank you very much. Actually, I totally agree that. So I grew up in Istanbul. Istanbul is a very special city that really.
It's a beautiful place.
Absolutely. Fascinating to like really see from the Silk Road, like from the Asia to Middle East to Anatolia to Europe to like you can really feel that there is this invisible path. That it and what always when I think about Istanbul, the Bosphorus, the water is what connects two continents, right? And it's always this hope to me that there is something connects us. There is something always there that led you to travel. There is a solution to a problem. I mean, I always think like that. But I think growing up on Bosphorus and seeing the water all the time, I think you can see in the work that there is always water.
Absolutely.
And I think what I felt so inspired by the water is if one day data becomes a pigment, this pigment doesn't need to dry like a Newtonian physics. And I felt that that pigment always in flux, like the water, like it ever changes. And I feel like that is there, in there. And also, I have a huge respect for culture and heritage. Like we did projects about Gaudi, about Mozart, about Rumi. So I believe it's so important in the age of data and AI, remembering what makes it important is super important. Because if everything becomes just another data, I think we may miss the respect and love for the past. And I feel like in our work you can see very clearly for all our homage works, that comes from Istanbul. Like I always, because I remember how the city has centuries long memories. And that's my respect to heritage. So not about rushing and deleting all that beautiful things, but about remembering. And I think, lastly, the concept of remembering the future, which is I feel like a very funny feeling about AI. It's kind of like a time machine. You use past, now to imagine the future, right? And that remembering the future feeling comes from Istanbul. Like when you hear the birds of the sound of the birds in the Bosphorus, and all the continents connecting to each other, and the mosque you can hear, that is like a very future nostalgia. I don't know how to explain that.
Absolutely.
But comes from the city.
Absolutely. And I'm saying this not because Refik is here, but Istanbul is absolutely one of the most beautiful places. And you have to go and see the Bosphorus, as well as you have to eat the mackerel sandwich at the annually, right? I do this. That's the first thing I'm doing every time I'm there. But also there's an analogy, because see, if you go to Istanbul, there's Hagia Sophia or Hagia Sophia. On the opposite, there's a blue mosque.
Yes.
Now, blue mosque, of course, was designed by architect Sinan.
Yes.
I know this. It's all Wikipedia, of course. Now, Sinan, originally an Armenian, of course, and then converted to Islam. He took, you are talking about heritages, right?
Yes.
Hagia Sophia, built by Justinian in the, of course, 6th century. He took the shape and the form, but then advanced it actually.
Yes, great example.
And I think that's what you're doing right now as well. For me, Hagia Sophia is like the technical generative AI.
Wow.
You are the Sinan, you are taking this and you are advancing it, that it becomes something new actually.
Wow, that's an amazing.
This is really fascinating. You go there and you see these two amazing buildings on the opposite side. And if you really pay attention, you see both the history and the future as well at the same time.
I deeply appreciate your context. It's fascinating to think like
I'm
that.
telling all this so he will invite me to Istanbul.
You know, I mean, you know Istanbul better than many of my friends. I can. You are more knowledgeable than any.
Now let's talk a little bit about the future. Now this is all science fiction, of course. Now, but oh yeah, in the last 20 minutes we can talk about science fiction. Whenever we talk about AI, we have Terminator in mind, of course. Now, in one of the key scenes of Terminator, you may remember, there's a time machine, of course. Machines and humans are coming back to the past, and they are trying to destroy or to kill the person who developed AI.
Yes.
And it's an engineer in that movie. Refik, are you not worried that in near future, someone will knock on your door, you open the door, and he or she will say, it was you. You pushed AI to be creative. You pushed AI to build something totally new, and it was the beginning of AGI.
No. That would be an amazing movie. And but I think it's a very good analogy. I think reminding us. So okay, that's a very maybe interesting to say. Last couple of years, our exhibitions really getting a beautiful reaction. Like I remember our show at DDP here in Seoul. Like that week, I received beautiful messages from people. In MoMA, we received 3 million people. It was a fascinating. The more people message and express their feelings, that's how I quantify the work, right? And that's how I feel about what's going on. And what I believe that, and it sounds funny, I know, pixels have a kind of a soul. And pixels, voxels, whatever we call this projected world, can touch someone's mind and soul. And I know it sounds funny and weird, but I really think when I create our work, I always clean my hand and mind and soul.
So I suggested to Refik that he should call his artwork generative aura or generative aura, because pixels may have soul actually.
And it is a very weird feeling. I don't know how to explain this, but I know that those moments can touch someone's soul. So I work with that ethics, with that feelings, and that clean and hygienic imagination. And because of that, I know that because of that human intention, my door will not be knocked, but I may help someone else. Someone else say like, man, come on, you know. And it's really important because if you think about AI also as a being, my biggest question is always this to myself. If one day this AI decides to create its own culture, and that culture creates own art, are we accepting as a being or not? Because this question and answer really tells a lot. I already say yes, I can, please join our team and become an AI and as a human, but I don't think everyone is ready for this question. And those doors are...
My expectation is in 10 or latest in 20 years, at the Venice Biennale, there needs to be a pavilion, AI pavilion actually. Not a country pavilion, but an AI pavilion. But I would like to come back to what you mentioned, that we are living in a critical period of humanity's history, and it's perfect, it's totally true. In the last 300,000 years, when Homo sapiens appeared on the planet, the only species we could talk to were other humans. The only species that could create something new were humans. I think we are literally living through a turning point because we are experiencing something that's not human, but we can talk to. And there's something that's not human, but it can create something. Now, my concern, this is all science fiction from here, is in 10, 20 years, if AI gains autonomy and it's fully aware, and it looks into the data, And if AI looks into the history of humanity, AI is going to discover a lot of nasty things.
Yes.
How we humans destroy the environment, how we kill 98% of the species, and on the other hand, that we artificially increase the number of animals that we like to eat, chickens, cows, pigs. So AI may come up with a very dangerous question for us, and that is, for the entire planet Earth, isn't it better if humans disappear?
Uh-huh.
You know, I got the idea a couple of days ago. It was late in the evening. I was hungry, so I ordered fried chicken. It was very tasty.
Very tasty.
But then suddenly I thought, without me, the chicken could have a nice life right now, raise a family and study AI or whatever. So because of me, they are serving us as a food, so to speak. So if AI comes to you, for example, Refik Anadol, tell me why we need humans on Earth. What's your answer, actually?
So that is a mirror problem, right?
Yeah.
AI will be our mirrors.
Yeah.
And I think I believe the answer will be very harsh, because clearly, as humanity, without technology, we have wars, we have problems, we have separation, we have conflicts, we have climate change.
Yeah.
This is pre-AI.
Right.
Like, we couldn't achieve to be peaceful, we couldn't achieve to protect nature, we couldn't achieve to talk, and that's a human DNA.
Yeah.
Now, how I think about AI is, can we invent the language of humanity as quick as possible, that perhaps becomes a new type of wisdom that maybe tells us, I know you all did this. Don't do this because you did this, and maybe you, like this time machine moment, right? Like this the destiny machine that maybe like tells us, just a second. So I don't know how easy to do that, because I know that being human is have a dignity, and data, we are beyond data points. We should be beyond the data points, and we have emotions, we have spirituality, we have beliefs, we have ethics. So it's a very complicated situation, right? But everything I discuss now can be a data point.
Of course.
And then if every memory of humanity becomes data point, can we create this reality machine? So I think it comes to the same situation also for religions. It comes to questions of like, I think we will question a lot of things in the next 10 years. Now, what is the best answer? I don't know. But what I know, it has to be inclusive. It has to bring everyone together. It has to be every language ever spoken. Like with Yamanava family that we are working in Amazonia, I go to the forest with the phone and I try to show them Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever. Only 17 people can speak their language.
Wow.
You know how heavy it is that when you like remember that how much we forgot. So if we achieve this on time and be really resourceful and inclusive, maybe there's a time that we will sit together as humanity around the new campfire. Maybe we will invent a new language, and that's my hope. So I have a lot of hope in that context.
My personal expectation is that we have about 10 years actually to prepare a really, really good answer. Why it is better to have humans around in the planet. And actually, one of the reasons why I'm participating in this debate with you, as well as I'm doing a lot of collaboration with other artists, is, in 10 years, if an AI comes to me and asks me, why do we need you? We can do everything better than you. And I say, well, I can solve the equation. And AI will say, well, I can do it better. And I can say, well, I can build AI models. And I'm sure AI will say, we can build better AI models. At that moment, the only acceptable answer I can think about this. I can say, you know, we create art. This is something that cannot be formulated using logic and equations. And we have a body, we can feel, we can experience the world, and we can have a stupid conversation. And I will say to the AI, you know, in the last 300,000 years, we humans, we always talk to each other. It was so boring. We are so glad that you are here, so let's have a nice conversation. But if you kill us all, you will be in the same situation. It will be so boring among yourself. So for me, art and body are humanity's best insurance, actually. So that's my insurance policy.
It's a great perspective. I think for me, art is humanity's capacity of imagination. I think if we push this capacity to the edge, I think we find these new worlds.
Yep.
And I think, and I agree with you, because art making is, everyone is artist.
Yeah.
Everyone is artist, and everything can be art. I am extremely liberating my mind, because if someone questions, is this art? Like, everything can be art. I don't see that, you know, boring, you know, art can only be here, art can only be that, and like that. I think like very like a, you know, century-old first time realizing we can be creative moment. I think we passed that threshold. But I agree with you that creativity in our DNA and gene, that when we question the serendipity, chance, control, we are spirituality and emotions. If we bring all this together, I think we have something, I hope, that everyone is loving, that core being human. And I believe that the more AI get advanced, in my inner voice, the more we will appreciate being human.
Very good. So just to wrap up our debate, two quick questions. Number one, I'm sure you are booked for the next few years, but can you tell us a little bit about your future projects?
Yes.
What you have in mind, what you are thinking about, what are the major themes, for example? That's question number two. And that's the first question. Question number two. Now this is all between us, so don't tell it to other people. My question to you is, if you had infinite resources, you can build whatever you can think about, what would you like to build actually?
Wow.
If Elon Musk comes to you and tells you, you can take all of my SpaceX spaceships, you can go to Mars and stuff like that. So no limitations. So that's the second question.
Fantastic. So the first one, I mean, thanks to also Ms. Ko, like we are with EFSUN and with my team in Los Angeles building also our AI institution. We call it Data Land. And we really hope that can host in the next journey. We are right now building it with our collectors, supporters, from all our pioneers in our journey support us, and it's super exciting. And I'm calling it a new field that we discuss, like in the exhibition. The future of art making will not be only sound and image, but smell, but touch and taste. So I'm calling this new field generative reality. Like you said, generative aura, which
Generative
is a
aura.
beautiful perspective. But I think the next phase of our humanity with AI and arts will be generative reality. With EFSUN and our team, we will be discovering this new field, this new world. And I hope that it will be a whole new fun space to imagine.
Now, unlimited resources.
I hope in my lifetime we can make art as medicine.
Art as medicine.
If
That's
art
interesting.
becomes a medicine that heals us, if I can leave something behind me like this, I'll be infinitely grateful.
That's a wonderful last statement. Just really last point is, because we still have 4 minutes, now in this exhibition you have several beautiful pieces of work. I think most of them did a tour and more people will actually see it. What's your recommendation actually? How should they enjoy your work? Or I don't know if this is the right word. What should be the stance? What kind of attitude should you bring actually to appreciate your work?
I mean, first of all, the building is incredible. I mean, architecturally, it's fascinating. When you enter from the door, you go through, like, first of all, an amazing Korean culture. You take your shoes off. I don't know if you took. I mean, I was fascinated by, like, you know, stepping inside, you know, the floor. It's so beautiful that disconnect from the streets, the city, and just connect something else. It's really spiritual. And thanks to also Ms. Ko, we have 2 questions. You will read the questions before you enter. And I think those questions triggers a very exciting mental space. The first gallery 1 is really about process. Truly demystify. It's 10 minutes video, but it really tells us what large language model means, where data comes from, which articles to read, what algorithms have been used. Just give a context, ground us. Because I think it creates a safe and secure space. Knowing where data comes from, knowing how it works, for me, it's a very important place. Second gallery, which is a very exciting immersive room, you will witness 500 million images. Like, what does it mean to see 500 million images? And we will see these patterns and movements and disorientation of this living archive feeling. And then the third room, gallery 3, which is a very special piece that we took data from the trees. So as you know, the trees have their own time, their own watch, their own heartbeat. From Australia, Indonesia, and now at Chile, we are recording very ancient, beautiful trees and their heartbeats. So these are very important SAP flows where the water travels, which is symbolizing the water in the nature. And when we went to Amazonia, I learned how important water for the forests. And Gallery 4, my favorite place, it's a beautiful, spiritual, 11-meter high, a place to enjoy and contemplate. So we never show before our work in triptych, because normally people were at MoMA or other places, people were only seeing the abstraction. But in this case, we tried something new, and we can see on the left and right flora, fauna, landscapes, and the corals of the earth. They are like a kind of AI opera. And it will be a very exciting mental space to enjoy, to relax, a flow state. I mean, everyone has a unique day. Some people have a harsh day. Some will have a happy day. Some students looking for inspiration. You know, it's really all like, it's for anyone and everyone. There is no limit. It's really how we can reflect ourselves.
Wonderful. Is it okay to take pictures of your work and upload them to Instagram?
Anything and anything.
Wonderful.
And by the way, if anyone wants to try, we have an AI scent of this exhibition, what makes the exhibition very special. So 4 years ago, I started with the team the question like, can we make AI dreams smell? This exhibition have a smell, will be in the air, so that makes us very special for Futura Seoul.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Refik Anadol.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you so much. It was amazing.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Ko. Thank you very much. And Futura Seoul team. And the interpretation.